Good morning. Good morning, respected judges and fellow people over here. Today, I am Dr. Pranjali Mathurkar, junior resident. So, we are going to see case series on a rare and fascinating disease, primary external auditory canal cholesteatoma. So, EAC cholesteatoma is bone erosion osteitis and keratin material accumulation derived from the sac that involves bone of the ear canal with bony fragments within it in the ear lumen. It can be primary, mostly spontaneous or idiopathic, or secondary after trauma, inflammation, or stenosis of the canal. So, primary EAC cholesteatoma, it is the invasion of squamous epithelium into a localized area of bony erosion of auditory canal with or without necrosis. It is due to decreased migratory epithelialization of the canal with help of keratinization in situ. It is a slow-growing disease with non-specific symptoms such as ear discharge, chronic ear ache, or mild or decreased hearing loss. So, cholesteatomas are most commonly seen in middle ear and rarely in the external auditory canal. We can see in general population the incidence of 0.15 cases per lakh individuals compared to 9.2 cases per lakh individual for middle ear cholesteatoma. That is 1 per 1,000 new patients visiting in otology clinic. In present study, incidence was found to be 0.5 per 1,000 new ear patients. Due to the limited literature on primary EAC cholesteatoma, here we aim to focus on etiology, clinical features, imaging, disease extension and invasion, complication of this rare disease. So, over the past 2 years, we have analyzed 5 of these cases on the basis of etiology, degree of hearing loss, CT findings, and extension of the disease. We can see, let me walk you through 5 of these cases where their age ranges from 30 to 70 years. 2 of them were males and 3 of them were females, mostly presenting with earache, otorrhea, and hard of hearing. Most commonly, the site is posterior inferior wall of EAC, but here we can see case 1 presented as posterior inferior wall and other were found to be posterior wall was involved. The tympanic membrane was intact and complications like labyrinthine fistula, facial nerve palsy could be seen in 2 of the cases. So, we can see a polyp and cholesteatoma arising from the posterior inferior EAC wall of the right ear, and on CT it was found to be same with some involvement of mastoid cavity with normal middle ear and which was suggestive of cholesteatoma. Intraoperatively we could find the same and it was confirmed by biopsy. In the second case, with similar finding, we could see locally a tick destruction was present with congested tympanic membrane and a profound mixed hearing loss. On CT scan, we could see opacified mastoid air cells with disease in the middle ear, ossicles were involved, and facial canal was dehiscent. Intraoperatively, cholesteatoma sac was present around the lateral semicircular canal. Evidence of labyrinthine fistula could be seen. The case was managed surgically, canal wall down mastoidectomy was done. Similarly, we could see in the next case that patient presented with earache, but the patient didn't present with ear discharge. Locally, same findings were found as other cases, and on HRCT, we could see resorption of ossicles with soft tissue opacification extending to the middle ear, thickened tympanic membrane, and erosion of posterior AC wall was seen. Now, a 70-year-old female who presented as ear discharge and hard of hearing with moderate degree of conductive hearing loss. On CT, we could see a soft tissue density in the mastoid cavity suggesting of cholesteatoma. Intraoperatively, we could find the same. Now, a 48-year-old female who was a known case of diabetic and similar ear complaints, on bus culture, we could found Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Till here, there are doubt clicks of about malignant otitis externa. But because of CT, we could see posterior AC wall erosion, disease in the mastoid antrum and middle ear, facial nerve involvement, and perilabyrinthine defect. Intraoperatively, we could see the same, and the patient was operated, managed surgically with canal wall down mastoidectomy, and cavity was covered partially with fat layer, bone dust, and temporalis fascia graft. Post-operatively, complication of facial nerve palsy was seen and managed conservatively, and the symptoms subsided eventually. So, primary EAC cholesteatoma is a rare disease, most commonly seen in elderly, but can affect young population. In our case series of 5 patients, average age was of 45 years. None of these patients had previous history of any trauma or surgery. Therefore, they were primary. 4 of these had unilateral ear discharge with otalgia and associated hard of hearing. 3 of them had mixed hearing loss and others had conductive hearing loss. Out of the 5, 4 of them had posterior wall erosion and others posterior inferior wall was involved. So, Mostly primary EAC cholesteatoma is limited to the external canal, but in advanced cases, it can spread to tympanic TM joint, hypotympanum, mastoid, facial nerve, or to the base of skull. EAC destruction can be seen in all of these cases. Extension of cholesteatum was not seen in the first case, and middle ear and ossicular chain was intact in case first. Labyrinthine fistula could be seen in other 4 cases, and facial canal was dehiscent in the others. Dural plate was not eroded in first 2 cases. So, HRCT temporal bone is gold standard to diagnose EAC cholesteatoma, and we could see similar findings intraoperatively. All of these cases were confirmed histologically as cholesteatoma, and according to the Neonatal classification, all of them were staged as stage 4 disease. One of them was of milder extension and rest had extensive disease and invasion. So all of them were managed surgically by canal wall down mastectomy, and reconstruction was done in 2 of these cases. We could see extension and invasion of EAC cholesteatoma disease much more compared to the middle ear cholesteatoma disease. Other differentials of the disease could be keratosis obturans, malignant otitis externa, benign necrotizing otitis externa, and squamous cell carcinoma of EAC. Complications like facial palsy, invasion of mastoid cavity, labyrinthine fistula, and ossicular chain erosion can be seen. None of the 5 cases have experienced the recurrence of disease till till last follow-up. So there is no such idea about recurrence of the disease. So to conclude, primary EAC cholesteatoma is a rare and notorious disease. So we have to clinically keep an eye that it can be EAC cholesteatoma whenever we find erosion of the posterior canal, erosion of the auditory canal. It seems to have more chances of extension compared to the middle ear cholesteatoma to deeper structures. Early diagnosis can prevent hearing loss and advancing of this disease, and timely treatment can prevent complications. Biopsy should be undertaken to exclude carcinoma, and it also helps in differentiating it from other similar diseases. Most of the cases are managed surgically, and recurrence rate is not much known. These are my references. Thank you.
Okay. In these 5 cases, case number 4 you mentioned, right? 48-year female. So you mentioned all the features. So what made you to diagnose as EAC cholesteatoma in this case number 4? Because the other findings are like diabetes, facial. So they are going towards malignant otitis externa. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you make you to diagnose as a EAC cholesteatoma in case number 4?
Yeah, clinically we could see the destruction of posterior EAC wall. A purulent ear discharge was seen, and on CT finding we could see the cholesteatoma was extending towards middle ear, and then resorption of ossicles was seen.
Okay.
Also, in malignant otitis externa, the patient presents with severe pain. Here the patient had a chronic onset of the disease.
Again, in the findings, out of the 5 cases, 4 cases you mentioned the tympanic membrane was intact. In the findings you mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4. So only 1 case you got otorrhea. Only 1 case you got discharge?
No, in only 1 case I didn't have ear discharge.
Otherwise, okay. Because there is a difference in. Okay. Sir.
So how do you differentiate between keratosis obturans and EACC?
In keratosis obturans, the patient usually presents bilaterally. Chances of ear discharge are less. Severe pain is present, and also the cavity is circumferentially enlarged, and mostly they come with impacted wax. Complaints of impacted wax with severe pain.
Hello. Ma'am, what you have presented, I may differ from this, but it doesn't look like an external auditory canal cholesteatoma, because by definition, if it involves the middle ear, how can you differentiate that it is not a pure cholesteatoma and it's just an EAC cholesteatoma that has got complication? Because in CT scan, what you have mentioned is, can you go back to the CT scan of first or second case, if I am not wrong, on the right side that you have shown? Go back to the slide on this one. So in this, the part that you have mentioned, there is a complete involvement of the middle ear. It looks like to me like it's a pure cholesteatoma, because the reason that you have mentioned is the size is 1 less of the study. That's why the incidence is more. So how can you differentiate that whether it is not a pure cholesteatoma or a middle ear disease that has started, or it's an ESC cholesteatoma that has gone inside?
What was the findings of tympanic membrane in your cases?
Most of the tympanic membrane was intact in most of the cases. Some of them had congested tympanic membrane, and we could see destruction of the canal, auditory canal.
Correctly, because a cholesteatoma has some path to go.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. ESC cholesteatoma pathway and your normal cholesteatoma pathway. That will differentiate the diagnosis.
Clinically, patient would differ in middle ear cholesteatoma. The degree of hearing loss would be different. In cholesteatoma, mostly it can be mild or no hearing loss. But most of the cases over here are with complications. That's why they are having a greater degree of hearing loss.
Okay.